This is Roger Habert in his chapter of 2 Samuel. And David's family life is going to really take a turn for not so good. He already had, like, I was reading in I think he had about 6 wives in Hebron before he moved to Jerusalem. So he had a bunch of wives anyway. He had well over 3, I know that. Well, so here we go. In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. And this is going to be a terrible situation. It happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house that he saw from the roof a woman bathing. And the woman was very beautiful. Well, I guess she was bathing outside or up on her roof. And usually when you're bathing, I guess you're naked. Anyway, did she know that she was naked? And did she know that David was up there, the king, on his rooftop, maybe looking around? And David sent and inquired about the woman. And one said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Let me tell you about these 2 guys, Eliam and Uriah. There were probably around 300,000 to 1 million men, maybe like 500,000, even 600,000, in the army, or they could be called up. And out of those, 30 to 37 were the elite forces. So that would be like 1/10 of 1% of the top people were in these 30 men, or sometimes called 37. And you know who was in there? Eliam, who is the son of Eliam, the father of Bathsheba, and the son of Ahithophel. Ahithophel was David's closest counselor. Uriah the Hittite was her husband. That meant that this Eliam and this Uriah were probably with David all the time with his 600 men when Saul was chasing them. What I'm trying to say, this was a real tight community. It wasn't something just, who was that? That was Bathsheba? No, this was a very tight community. So, is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, one of the 30? The wife of Uriah the Hittite, one of the 30, probably very close friends with Joab, the commander, and David, the king. So David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. Now that's not very nice, to lay with your friend's wife. That's a no-no. And you know, when you sin, it doesn't just, it's like a rock. You put a rock in some still water, plunge it in there, and what happens? It ripples out, ripples out, ripples out. This is what's going to happen. And it's going to turn David's family from, I don't know how you could have a peaceful deal with that many wives, because God just wanted us to have one wife. He says, the 2 shall be joined together and become one. Well, anyway, that's a mistake already. And then this turns out to be a huge mistake. So David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him. Now, if he sent messengers, you know, the whole city was talking. Hey, you know what David's doing? You know what Bathsheba's doing? Did you know? And you know this spread in messengers to the guys out fighting, because people love to talk. Now she had been purifying herself from her uncleanness. Then she returned to her house. And the woman conceived, and she sent and told David, "I am pregnant." So David sent word to Joab, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David, and when Uriah came to him, David asked how Joab was doing, and how the people were doing, and how the war was going. Then David said to Uriah, now you think Uriah didn't know what was going on by now? Go down to your house and wash your feet. And Uriah went out of the king's house, and there followed him a present from the king. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord, and did not go down to his house. When they told David, I'm sure Uriah was already hurting inside. Here he is, a great soldier, a husband that loves his wife, no doubt, but is hurt because I know he knows what's going on. Uriah did not go down to his house. David said to Uriah, have you not come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house? Well, Uriah said to David, the ark and Israel and Judah dwell in booths, and my lord Joab, see what he thinks that Joab is Lord, and the servants of my Lord are camping in the open field. Shall I then go to my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing. Wow. Then David said to Uriah, remain here today also, and tomorrow I will send you back. So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next, and David invited him, and he ate in his presence and drank so that he made him drunk. I'm sure they had a lot of old war stories to talk about and things like this. Like I say, they were real tight. It wasn't like this is just some stranger. So that he made him drunk. In the evening, he went out to lie on his couch with the servants of his Lord, but he did not go down to his house. In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. In the letter, he wrote, set Uriah in the forefront of the hardest fighting, and then draw back from him that he may be struck down and die. Isn't that the great way to treat your friend? Huh? And as Joab was besieging the city, he assigned Uriah to the place where he knew there were valiant men. Let me tell you, I don't think this pleased Joab either. Joab, he was part of David's 600 men, and I'm sure Uriah was too, and they'd been through a lot. And I'm imagine, I can just see Uriah when Joab is saying, hey, I want you to go over there and get killed, in essence. Uriah, I know, deep down in his heart, knows what the story is. And the men of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the servants of David among the people fell. Uriah the Hittite also died. Then Joab sent and told David all the news about the fighting, and he instructed the messenger. I want you to notice this message. I had never thought much about this. I always wondered, wow, this is sure a strange message, a strange analogy for Joab to use, but then I know why. Because the analogy he is using is about Abimelech. Let me tell you who Abimelech was. You remember Gideon's Bibles and all that, the 300? Well, Gideon had a bunch of sons. Well, this Abimelech killed all of them. And then he killed a tower of people by burning them up in the tower. He put a set of fire to the in other words, Abimelech was a sorry son of a gun. And Joab uses his name because I think he's saying to David, David, what you did was a sorry thing. And he instructed the messenger, this is Joab, when you have finished telling all the news about the fighting to the king, then if the king's anger rises and if he says to you, why did you go so near the city to fight? Did you not know that they would shoot from the wall? Well, of course, David's already told him, get him killed. Who killed Abimelech? See, this is the deal. Who killed Abimelech? Why in the world would he use such a scoundrel's name? Who killed Abimelech, the son of Jerubbesheth? Did not a woman? Yeah, he was doing this thing to another tower, and that woman threw a stone down on his head and killed him. Did not a woman cast an upper millstone on him from the wall so that he died at Thebez? Thebez, why did you go so near the wall? Then you shall say, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Isn't that funny news to send back to David? But that's the reason, I know it is. So the messenger went and came and told David all that Joab had sent him to tell. He told him. The messenger said to David, the men gained an advantage over us and came out against us in the field, but we drove them back to the entrance of the gate. Then the archers shot at your servants, some from the wall. Some of the king's servants are dead, and your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. Could have been even friendly fire. David said to the messenger, see, David's just going to toss this off. But after a while, David realizes something. Thus shall you say to Joab, do not let this matter displease you, for the sword devours now one and now another. Strengthen your attack against the city and overthrow it and encourage him. See, he just kind of tossed it off, didn't he? When the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah, her husband, was dead, she lamented over her husband. And when the mourning was over, David sent and brought her to his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. And tomorrow we're going to find out how Nathan the prophet reacts to all this. And do you know, like I say, it's a rippling effect. I told you that her father was one of the 32. So he knew Uriah, and I'm sure they were really thick. And Ahithophel, the grandfather, was David's close counselor. It angered Ahithophel so bad that later on, as you're going to find out, this is going to disturb David's whole family from henceforth. And Ahithophel joined with Absalom in the rebellion against the king, David. But Absalom was so arrogant and dumb, he didn't take Ahithophel's advice. He took Hushai's advice. And Ahithophel went home and hung himself, killed himself. Anyway, this was a sad, sad thing. God had given David everything. You know, David had never lost a war. In fact, as well as the Bible says, he had been so successful. His family had been successful. Everything was so successful. Now things are going to change. But anyway, I've never heard a preacher preach on Uriah the Hittite, but to me, he's one of the finest people in the Bible. And I love Uriah the Hittite. And I know that he knew he was taking a bullet, but he did it. Praise God. Okay. So much for that. We're going to go to Isaiah.